Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming. It's great to see a packed house. Welcome to the second annual State of the City Address. My name is Carolyn Douglas. I am an Edmonds native, and I'm now raising my family here in Edmonds. I am also a television anchor and producer and a communications consultant, and I've lived and worked in the Northwest and in states all around the country. But this place, Edmonds, is in my heart and soul. I was born and raised here, along with my 5 other siblings. We all attended Holy Rosary Edmonds Elementary, just up the block. And after graduating from Washington State University, I traveled around the state and the country for my career. And then about a decade ago, my husband and I decided to move back here, buy a home, and raise our children. Best decision we ever made. My parents still live in the house where I grew up. My dad is here today in the audience. He is still a member of several of the Edmonds coffee groups, or the Edmonds Mafia, as I often hear them called. In addition to practicing and teaching law for decades, he was also an Edmonds City Councilman back in the 70s, when we were still debating whether to build a boardwalk along the beach. So I have been following Edmonds' development since I could walk. Literally, as soon as we could walk, he had us out doorbelling for his campaigns. So I've seen a lot of changes in Edmonds over the years, or Deadmonds, as my friends and I used to call it when we were kids, aching to escape to the excitement of the big city. And thanks in part to the upbringing I did get here in Edmonds, I was able to bust out of Deadmonds and make it to the big city. In fact, to several big cities, as my career took me all around the country. But once my husband and I followed our careers back to Seattle, we knew exactly where we wanted to put down our roots and raise our family, because all of our traveling taught us that there really is no better place in the country to call home than good old Edmonds. Perspective is an amazing gift, and I'm so very grateful and proud to be standing here today now, calling Edmonds again my home and now my children's home. I know a lot of you share this passion for Edmonds. We've all seen some squabbling and some seemingly endless debates around various issues here in our hometown. And yes, it is frustrating when you feel like progress is not being made in the direction in which you want it to be made. But I also recognize that those heated debates are all born from a similar place, a shared, passionate love for this historic beach town of ours, and a shared desire to both protect it and enhance it. And I see the results of those tireless debates every time I walk around our town. I see a thriving downtown, full of busy shops and cafes and art walks. I see moms in strollers, teenagers at the movie theater here, kids hanging out at the yogurt and candy shops, grandparents down at the senior center on the beach. I see walking groups, youth groups, painting groups, literacy groups, microbreweries, artisan cheese and wine stores, and all kinds of happy hours kicking off a far more active nightlife than I ever saw back in my Deadmonds days. I see spectacular seasonal festivals and events that have become must-do traditions for my family, and I know for countless others. I see murals and flower baskets, movies, concerts in our parks, a thriving regional arts center, and theaters and galleries attracting artists and entertainers from all around the world. One of the top community colleges in the state, a state-of-the-art medical center at Swedish Edmonds, where every time I turn around, they seem to be building another new patient treatment facility. A growing international district boasting critically acclaimed restaurants and several of my family's favorite places to eat. And of course, I see our incredible waterfront, the jewel of our city, there for all of us to enjoy year-round. Whether it's ice cream on the beach in the summer or hot chocolate on a ferry ride in the winter, it truly is the heart and soul of this town. And it's one of the reasons my son often tells me, "Mommy, living in Edmonds is like living in vacation." So when the mayor so graciously asked me to give the opening remarks at this year's State of the City address, I said sure, not because I have any interest to start tangling in city politics. I got enough of that while helping my dad doorbell as a kid. But because whenever the opportunity presents itself, I am always so proud and grateful to be able to stand up and sing the praises of my beloved hometown. I know a lot of you share this pride and gratitude, or you all wouldn't have taken time out of your busy lives to be here today. And like you, I know we still have a lot of work to do, and we always will, to keep our city moving in the right direction. I know a lot of progress has been made, from turning the budget around to a renewed, vibrant downtown core, to this mayor's dedication to improving communications between the city and its residents. But there's always more to be done. And like you, I am always keenly interested in knowing what our leaders are up to. So, without further ado, let's get this event going as I introduce our next speaker. As the superintendent of the Verdant Health Commission, Carl Zapora is responsible for the administration of the Public Hospital District in South Snohomish County. He is also on the board of trustee for Edmonds Community College, a member of the boards of the Edmonds Chamber of Commerce and Molina Healthcare of Washington, and he serves on the advisory board of the University of Washington Bothell. Before his role at Verdant, he was president and CEO of the United Way of Snohomish County, and he has held chief executive and senior management positions at United Ways all around the country. I have had the pleasure of working with Carl on several Edmonds projects, and I have seen firsthand how he tirelessly works for all of us, for our health and well-being here in South Snohomish County. So it is my great pleasure to introduce my friend, Carl Zapora.
Thank you, Carolyn, and good morning, everyone. It's interesting that Carolyn mentioned the Edmonds Mafia. Well, I grew up in New Jersey, and I moved here from Chicago. Given my history living under good government in Chicago and New Jersey, they asked me to introduce the mayor. In fact, how many of you have been in New Jersey? You've all met my father. He was a toll collector on the New Jersey Turnpike. Back then, the highway lanes were generally open. New Jersey, where their tourism motto is, New Jersey, you got a problem with that? So in any event, Cheryl Foster, my wife, and I, we've lived in a lot of places in the country, and I think, like Carolyn, we love Edmonds. But I looked back at some of the places we lived and did look up their tourism motto. So New Jersey, I mentioned. Chicago, Illinois, please don't pronounce the S. New York, we matter, you don't. Texas, come for the ungodly sized bugs, stay for the debilitating heat. Detroit, Michigan, first line of defense from the Canadians. And then Cincinnati, Ohio, well, at least we're not Michigan. Well, Cheryl and I moved here 10 years ago from Chicago, and I still remember the first time we rounded the corner coming down 196th Street into Edmonds and drove through downtown. It was an immediate, what a great city. I mean, this town is just gorgeous, but then you really don't know what it's like until you live there. Since we've lived here for 10 years, we've made the decision we're going to live here forever. We just love this city, can't imagine living anywhere else. There is not a moment during the week where, at least once, we don't just stop and look at each other and say, don't you love this city? You know, just a great city, a great place to be, and a great place to live. We love the town, we love the waterfront, we love Edmonds Center for the Arts, we love the arts, culture, and vibrancy in the city. We love the Edmonds School District, Edmonds Community College, Swedish Edmonds Hospital. I'll count Primera Blue Cross since they are the largest private employer, headquartered in Snohomish County, and our neighbors in Mount Lake Terrace, the Edmonds Chamber of Commerce, the Edmonds Senior Center, Operation Military Families, how fortunate we are to have that organization and its leadership here in our community, the outdoors, the shopping, the restaurants, a very cool Irish pub. How many towns like Edmonds have an honest-to-goodness Irish pub? But more importantly, the wonderful people and friends that we have here. This is a wonderful place to form long-lasting and very deep friendships. Great community leaders, and yes, in my opinion, and I know in Cheryl's, pretty darn good government. When you've lived in some other parts of the country and you've seen how government can be, how challenging it can be, and how it at times does not make difficult and hard decisions. When you get to a community like Edmonds and see government doing an absolutely stellar job with fine professionals working in the city and dedicated and hardworking elected officials and administrators, I'm proud of our city and I am proud of our government. Mayor Earling took the reins of the city during a tough time and a poor economy. I know that if I asked how many people in the room would like to someday run for mayor, half of you would go running out the back door. It is a daunting thought and a daunting possibility. But Mayor Earling took the reins of the city during a very difficult time. We were challenged in many different ways, not the least was the economy was really in the tank. But it took someone like Mayor Earling with a deep devotion to the city to say, by golly, I think I can do a good job as mayor, and I'm willing to do that. Many of you know Mayor Earling has some musical background, and I did look up a quote for leadership, and I love this. If you're not afraid to face the music, you may someday lead the band. So Mayor Earling, when he took the reins of the city, did so with a lot of background. He was elected to the mayor's position in November of 2011. Before becoming mayor, he held a position on the Puget Sound Growth Management Hearings Board, an appointment made by Governor Chris Gregoire. Prior to the governor's appointment, he was a senior fellow at the Cascadia Center, a Seattle-based think tank. He did his undergraduate studies at Washington State University, then attended graduate school at Eastern Washington State University. At 23, he started teaching music at Shoreline Community College. We knew he would become a band leader at that point. Following 11 years at Shoreline Community College, Mayor Earling went into real estate as the owner of Edmonds Realty, and he was active in civic affairs primarily through the Edmonds Chamber of Commerce. He is a former 3-term city council member and has held positions on the board of Sound Transit, Community Transit, and the Edmonds School Foundation, Senior Services of Snohomish County, and the Washington Conservation Voters. He's currently on the board of Community Transit and Sound Transit. He's a trustee for the Economic Alliance of Snohomish County, an appointee to the AWC Legislative Committee, and president of Snohomish County Cities. David and his wife Susan raised their 3 children in Edmonds, and they currently live in the Perrinville area. So Mayor Earling, this place holds 239 people. I think we have almost a full house. So if I do the math, that means we've assembled 237 of your fans and 2 critics. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the great mayor of the greatest city in Washington, Mayor David Earling.
I'd like to ask the 2 critics to please stand. That was a pretty good comeback, actually. Well, I just lost my mic here, but I see it's still on, so I'm just going to keep charging right along. You know, it's a great opportunity to speak before so many people like this. Last year we spoke up at the Driftwood Theater, the Way James Theater, and we had a full house there. And I'm pleased to see that we have almost a full house here today. I'd like to welcome you and thank you for being here. I want to thank 2 of our community leaders for being kind enough to join me today up front, Carl Zapora and Carolyn Douglas. They both play important, what I call bridge building roles in our community. In fact, a portion of what I'll refer to this morning will be about the importance of building bridges in the community, in the region, and in the state. We cannot thrive, even survive, if we remain too insular. Yes, we must focus on the good of Edmonds, but even here in the community, we cannot flourish without the help of others. A great case in point of a bridge building is a project we are about to undertake, the Woodway Health and Wellness Campus Project. Located at the former Woodway High School, The facility will eventually feature 4 soccer fields, play areas, walking trails, and gathering places, a community asset that will inspire all of us. Could Edmonds do this $14 million project on its own? Probably not. But through a partnership of planning, funding, and working together, the Verdant Health Commission, the City of Edmonds, the Edmonds School District, and the state legislature, we have now pieced together the funding to complete phase 1 of the project. A bridge well built, a celebration for all. Thanks to Verdant, their commissioners, and Carl Zapora for putting in place the last financial piece. Enough of the bridge building for now, but I do want to return to that as a theme. Citizens of Edmonds, we finished a very good year. A year ago, we were being very cautious financially, having cut $1.5 million out of our general fund budget, including cutting staff, a 4% across-the-board cut for each department, and renegotiating our health care package put us in better financial condition. Because of the very tough decisions made and an improving economy, while we've not turned the corner, we can at least peek around the corner. With the improved financial situation, we are able to address some deferred maintenance on a variety of fronts, not the least of which is to commence a serious effort in repaving our streets for the first time in over 5 years. Although the budgeted $1.2 million may seem like a lot of money, for our dramatic needs, we will only be able to make a small beginning, but a beginning it is. Other long deferred needs will be able to be addressed too, with major improvements on some of our city HVAC systems and long delayed improvements in our IT system. The IT improvements will allow for better and more consistent communication within the city staff, as well as better communication with Edmonds citizens. All departments of the city have deferred needs: public works, public parks, public safety, and finance. Needs we can now begin to address. Yes, we are even able to bring back a few needed staff members. Having lost 12 employees with the previous year's budget cuts, we will add 2 new police officers, 2 staff in development services, and 1 in engineering. As I often remind folks, Edmonds has one of the lowest per capita staff to population ratios in the Puget Sound. We have around 200 employees with a city population of 40,000. Even with the additional positions, we are still amongst the lowest ratios in the region. Speaking of development services and engineering, we are seeing a very busy year in major construction projects. We are all aware of the dramatic expansion of the Swedish Edmonds Hospital. Their improvements include a new parking garage. You see David here, which is, by the way, under construction. Go have a look. And they are expanding their facility by 70,000 square feet, which will include the medical facility, obviously, which will include a new emergency service area. Terrific improvements for our community health care needs. In addition, dramatic changes will be forthcoming in the old Safeway site across from Harbor Square. In the next couple of months, you'll see a major announcement. Part of the development will be a dramatic new art museum at that site. The cooperation done with the Eichelbarger family, the City of Edmonds, and Sound Transit for expanded commuter rail parking is a terrific example of public-private partnerships. A fabulous new project will be introduced on the north end of the post office site, introducing much-needed multifamily housing units. Additionally, the Port of Edmonds has a long-term lease with Jacobson Marine. A new building will be constructed on the port property, which will offer a full array of services for our marina and boating communities. These projects, along with normal permitting, finishing the code modifications, and beginning the comprehensive plan rewrite, will sure as hell keep some of our staff members pretty busy. A major undertaking this year will be extensive work on the strategic plan. The council approved the plan last April, and a fair amount of work has already begun. Between the city staff, the council, the Economic Development Commission, Planning Board, the Chamber of Commerce, and other volunteer organizations, much will be accomplished this year. In addition, the council suggested and approved a one-year half-time position to assist Stephen Clifton and Cindy Cruz in the Community Services Department to advance the plan. You can find the strategic plan on our city website. If you look at it, you might have too much fun and want to volunteer for something. We'll be signing up people as you leave. Many of you will recall we held an arts summit last year with great success. Over 230 participants gathered, including the Edmonds Arts Festival, Cascade Symphony, Snow King Chorale, Driftwood Players, Phoenix Theater, Olympic Ballet, Barclay Shelton Dance Studio, several art galleries, the Edmonds Center for the Arts, the Edmonds Arts Commission, and many individual and performing artists, all interested in how we can expand the reputation of Edmonds as an arts center. We will soon hire a part-time consultant for a year to help develop our communication potential and explore the arts potential for Edmonds. It is time, in my opinion, to unify our fabulous arts community and build a regional arts reputation for Edmonds. Public Works and the Parks Department will both have busy years. Francis Chapin has just finished the first phase of a fabulous lighting and decorative art project in the International District on Highway 99. Carrie Height is working hard on the extensive renovation of a popular city park. Thanks to the Hazel Miller Foundation for their generous grant to move this project along. We are just finishing our Parks Pros plan, required by the state every 6 years. And Carrie will, I'm sure, be digging, literally, into the previously mentioned project at the old Woodway High School playfield. Besides the $1.2 million in street repaving, Phil Williams, Public Works and Engineering, will head up major improvements on Highway 99 at 228th, that's about where Country Farms is, providing an important east-west connector for the community, as well as improve safety on Highway 99. The very high-profile and popular roundabout construction will get underway this year. Oh, good, a reaction from the audience. I figured it was better to say it than dodge the bullet. And we will continue our extensive waterline replacement program. Not sexy, but it's something that we need to pay attention to. All of these improvements will cause neighborhood disruptions, but in the end, this work is work which will better the city. Much of the accomplishments and challenges I've been talking about up to this point, in one way or another, come back to the creative, imaginative work of the various departments and amazing quality staff which make this city go. And I want to spend a little time talking about the professionals we have on staff, serving you, the public. Truly, one of the highlights of the past 2 years for me has been coming to the office every day and working with a team of professionals the City of Edmonds has assembled. From my executive assistant, Carolyn, to my directors, to the frontline people who meet the public, to our Public Works and Park staff who are out in the community daily, you, the public, should be proud of their work. I certainly am. Do we ever make mistakes? You bet. But week after week, I receive reports of good deeds when employees in the line of duty, or often above and beyond the call of duty, take the extra step to help the citizens of Edmonds. A recent example involves one of our Public Works staff, Steve Matthews. A 90-year-old woman had a basement bathroom overflow in the holidays, and the line needed to be cleaned. The service company cleaned the line and told her she would need an outside cleanout installed at the cost of $4,000. The elderly woman set aside the money and ordered the installation. Subsequently, Steve Matthews came on the scene, and when a neighbor approached Steve and commented to him that he thought it was unusual that there was not a cleanout line already, Steve thought about it and thought it odd also, and volunteered to check the city records to see if there was indeed a cleanout on the property. Steve left and returned in 20 minutes with proof such a cleanout existed. He and the neighbor found the spot in the backyard. The service company had previously located and marked where the new cleanout would be. The location was right over where the existing cleanout was. Stop and think about that. The neighbor says Steve made no comment about the coincidence of the location and acted professionally by just relaying the facts. Whether coincidence or otherwise, Steve saved the homeowner $4,000. That's the kind of employee we have. Steve is here this morning. Steve, I'd like to ask you to stand and let us give you a round of applause. To give you a hint of how Steve thinks, he wasn't really excited about doing this, as I understand. Maybe that's why he's got the Seahawk cap on. But nonetheless, he came up to me just before and he said, you know, I'm okay with this, but I want you to tell everyone that all of the other public works employees would have done the same thing. That's a great testament, Steve, and thank you very much. Let's spend a few minutes talking about short and long-term challenges we face. While we have a busy roadmap before us, there are several important issues we either need to monitor or begin to address as we think about the future, whether we think the future is a year away or 20 years away. Some of the short-term challenges. The most pressing monitoring challenge for me is to keep a watchful eye on revenue and expenses. We just finished a very hard year with regard to our budget, and I don't want to do that again. We made very tough choices with the reductions I already mentioned, and now the improving economy, property values beginning to stabilize, sales tax increase, we can with cautious optimism begin to look at the future. But we will continue to monitor the dollars. Another short-term challenge is how we continue to fund the repaving needs of the city. Yes, I was able to find $1.2 million to do some repaving this year, but longer term, where do we find the predictable source of funding? A third short-term challenge, and related to the budget, is our ongoing need to seek ways to improve our economy and add additional revenue without mentioning the evil word, taxes. Our ongoing efforts to attract high-quality businesses to Edmonds has had great success. Efforts of Stephen Clifton and his department, our Chamber of Commerce, the new Business Improvement District, and the Downtown Edmonds Merchants Association all add to the energy to build a healthy business community, whether it be in downtown, Westgate, Five Corners, or Highway 99. Speaking of Highway 99, I want to thank Senator Marco Leas for his efforts to obtain a $10 million appropriation as part of a transportation package to begin a long-term effort to improve the business climate and aesthetics on Highway 99. Our potential for positive growth is nearly unlimited on Highway 99. Perhaps at some point, the state legislature, and by the way, there is a package now being talked about in Olympia, if you ever want to make a call to one of your representatives. But there is a package being worked on, but we need to assemble a realistic transportation package to move our region and the state forward. Part of the clash between Boeing and making their decision on whether to do the wing here in Snohomish County, centered around the transportation issues. We need to fix it. I know I can't wait, and I know you shouldn't want to wait. For those of you who have lived here for maybe 10 years or more, you know Highway 99 used to be a true hodgepodge or smattering of businesses, some good and some not so good. As Carolyn Douglas said in her remarks, this area has now become an area that they go to for many of their favorite restaurants. The International District continues to grow and add quality. We have very high quality auto dealerships. In that area, we've made great progress in the last 10 years. 5 years ago in downtown Edmonds, after 6 o'clock, you could park any place you wanted to on Fifth Avenue or Main Street. With the new restaurants, coffee shops, the Edmonds Theater, the ECA, not to mention yogurt and gelato businesses, today after 6 o'clock, the downtown area is alive and vibrant. I love to hear somebody say I couldn't find a parking place. Had to look for it. Maybe that's what I'd rather hear. Westgate and Five Corners are changing too. Think about a few years ago, we brought in the PCC, Bartell's, and most recently the Walgreens. All are located there, and a good sign for Edmonds. At Five Corners, we've added 2 restaurants recently, the Bar Dojo and Soups On Cafe. Most exciting to me, however, is we are seeing younger families come to Edmonds. The beautiful natural setting, the business mix changes, safe neighborhoods, an outstanding Edmonds School District and Edmonds Community College provide the quality of life young families like to see. Times, folks, they are a-changin'. A few longer-term challenges. Again and briefly, Highway 99 is a long-term challenge and opportunity. Our 2-mile stretch of highway is maturing, and we need to become proactive in developing the potential. The International District continues to grow. The new lighting and decorative art project in that area I mentioned is one of the small pieces of a larger effort we need to maintain in that area. Certainly, having the expansion of the Swedish Edmonds campus adds an important component to that area. Although it will take time, effort, and money, we need to shape the future of that critical area. A second long-term need is to finish the planning and work that has gone on at Westgate and Five Corners. We have enormous potential in those 2 areas to create truly walkable neighborhoods. The good work at the University of Washington has been done for those 2 areas, and we should not lose it. To achieve our long-term growth management goals, we need to find creative ways to enable those small business communities to provide needed services to allow for potential increased housing. Having walkable neighborhoods is a terrific way to improve health, improve our environment, and add to the Edmonds quality of life. Another long-term challenge we face is how we deal with the conflict of people, railroads, state highway, automobiles, commerce, and safety at our 2 access points to our waterfront, Dayton Street and Main Street. We now know that we shut down access to the waterfront 30 to 35 times a day as a train comes through town. Closing down the waterfront access in about a 24-hour period for an hour and a half a day. From a 2005 analysis, we know the projected number of trains coming through Edmonds by 2030 is to be 104 daily trains. Yes, 104. And that's before the talk of the coal trains. If we get to 104, the staff has calculated that we'll shut down the waterfront in a 24-hour period, 4 hours a day. This is clearly not acceptable to the citizens of Edmonds, the State Department of Transportation, the Port of Edmonds, or the people in the region. Folks, we cannot wait until 2029 to solve the problem. We must begin now to address it. We currently have a proposal before the state legislature for an alternatives analysis to provide potential solutions for this long-term issue. When we're able to receive answers from such an analysis, it will take years to assemble the money from regional, state, and federal sources to build whatever the answer is found to be. Oh yes, back to bridge building. You thought you had me distracted, didn't you? The cooperative effort of Verdant, the Edmonds School District, state legislators, and the city of Edmonds to undertake the former Woodway High School playfield and turn it into the Woodway Health and Wellness Campus Project is a glowing example of how goodwill, trust, cooperation, and hard work produce benefits. In this case, not just for the city, but all age groups and all people of South Snohomish County. Your city council members are involved with various local and regional issues which raise visibility for our community. A few examples of building bridges in the region are Council President Buckness is very active in the WIRA 8 process, and through the effort has placed the importance of our marsh as a long-term asset squarely before us. She is also active in the long-term Snohomish County Planning Organization, Snohomish County Tomorrow. Councilmember Strom Peterson is and has been active on environmental issues, with special current efforts dealing with the prospect of coal trains. He is also the council representative on the Snohomish County Emergency Radio System Board. Councilmember Fraley Manias has been a long-standing active member of the Snohomish County Health District. Councilmember Christiana Johnson is active on the South Snohomish County Bike Business Forum. All are terrific examples of making connections with bringing credibility to our city and establish long-term advantageous relationships for Edmonds. Many of you know I've been a strong believer of regionalism for years, with the firm belief that by forming long-term relationships, building bridges, if you will, with other elected officials as well as staff leaders in the county, Puget Sound Regional Council, the state, and at the national level, more can be accomplished for the greater good of Edmonds. Most of you know I've been active on the Community Transit and Sound Transit boards for years. I'm a trustee for the Economic Alliance of Snohomish County and president of the Snohomish County Cities. The city group, by the way, is in the process of transforming itself into a county-wide effort to work with the county executive, the county staff, and business community, and cities to cause influence in regional, state, and federal level. We have an exciting meeting planned just this evening. It's called The Summit. It brings together County Executive Lovick, his staff, and 70 elected city officials from across the county together to open communication channels to address common needs. All of the activities just mentioned are critically important to make Edmonds more important and also have credibility. After all, folks, we are the third largest city in the county. We are an important player, not someone's assistant. With all of the success just mentioned, we elected leaders in Edmonds need to be honest about the need for bridge building right here in Edmonds, Washington. The council has undertaken an effort to work more cooperatively among themselves by bringing in a consultant to address the need for team building, not to become best of friends, but find ways to acknowledge differences, build trust, make decisions, and move forward. I commend the council for addressing the situation head on. I'm sure there's a few of the council members who think I'm part of the needed solution too. To those folks, I enthusiastically say, I volunteer. Too much time is now wasted not trusting one another, not trusting staff, trying to drive individual agendas and to either slow down decision-making or outright scuttling ideas or projects. We as elected officials need to rise to the expectation of the community. We simply must begin to solve challenges and not quit infighting. We are an important community with a fabulous quality of life, and we need to find solutions, not create chaos. Finally, in regards to bridge building, as many of you know, I emphasized in a column in my Edmonds News, the Edmonds Beacon, and our newest online news source, Pivot Edmonds, that I would provide columns to the three news sources 2 times a month. The columns will either be from me, my staff, or guests that I invite, such as the one just written by David Jaffe, CEO at Swedish Edmonds. In addition, beginning in the second quarter this year, we'll hold quarterly town hall meetings, moving the site to different parts of the city each quarter. I have pledged to myself that city government should do a better job of communicating with you. With our busy lives, we all have a difficult time keeping track of all of the moving parts. Additionally, we will be experimenting with social media outlets, such as utilizing Facebook to better communicate with the citizens of Edmonds. In closing, let me say, as I did at the close of last year's State of the City, every day, including the days, even when I go home a little cranky from the day's events, I'm truly honored to be the mayor of Edmonds, Washington. We have a wonderful city. We have wonderful people with a fabulous future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. It's wonderful to see this level of involvement, and again, a packed house for our State of the City address. And thank you, Mayor, for a wonderful speech and bringing us up to date on what our city leaders are up to. And we hope that everyone will stay involved, as I know many of you will, and that we will see you back here next year to celebrate another successful year for Edmonds. Thank you.